Hey everybody, it's Mr. Lalaman here again. We're going to work on another drawing here. This drawing is going to be drawing buildings, okay? And these buildings are going to look a little three-dimensional. It's not going to follow the exact rules of one-point perspective drawing that my fourth graders do, but it does create a really cool look to it. And so I want us to think of big, tall skyscrapers. And I'm going to call these buildings arrow buildings, and you'll see why in just a minute, okay? So it's going to start off with really simple lines, and I think almost anybody can do this if you take it slow, step by step. If you need to pause and relook at something, do that. It shouldn't be that difficult. So the first thing I'm going to do is make a bunch of tall arrows, okay? So here's an arrow. And I'm going to put just a pointy top on it. See that? This one's going to be even taller. This one might be kind of shorter. Now if you had a bigger sheet of paper or a wider sheet of paper, you could put more of these. You don't want the arrows at the top to be too wide, because then you're going to be making some crazy decisions with how wide your building is too. So this is how easy it is. So this arrow here is going to become one building, okay? And all I do is I touch this side of my arrow and I make a straight line down, okay? And now I'm going to touch this side of the arrow and make a straight line down. I want to do one building at a time, because if you get too many lines going, it's going to get confusing if you try to do it all at once, okay? So I'm starting on one building at a time. Now this building needs windows, because it's so tall, it's a high rise, it's a skyscraper. We're going to give it a bunch of windows. But I want us to look at this line right here. Do you see this line? That line is diagonal, isn't it? It's not going out straight, it's going at an angle. So now what I'm going to do, when I draw a window, I want my windows to be slanted too. I don't want them going out perfectly straight. So I start with a line that's going at a diagonal. I'm going to make two straight lines and another diagonal line. A diagonal line, it's slanted. Make two straight lines for the side of my window, and then another diagonal line. Let me show you again on this side. See how that line's going slanty right there? So my window needs to do that. I'm going to make a diagonal line, two straight lines, and diagonal. Diagonal, straight, diagonal. Now if you wanted to, you could use a ruler with this. It'll make your line straighter. If you don't want to use a ruler to give you straight edge, you don't have to. I'm not. You see the windows on that building now? So I'm going to do this building. I'm not going to talk much more about it. I'm just going to do it. Okay? You could also do it this way. Two diagonal lines, two straight lines. And I'm going to go kind of quick. All right, and now I'm going to do my third building. I'm going to make the top of this one a little bit bigger because I got so much space over there. And buildings are not always the same width. Some buildings are much wider, much thicker than other buildings, okay? Again, I want to follow these diagonals with my windows. I want to follow those diagonals, okay? I'm going to do what those diagonals are doing. It makes the building look a little more three-dimensional when you do that, okay? Now, here's the thing. Maybe that's not a window. Maybe it's a sign for the building, okay? You could put your initials or a name or a smiley face or something, or an emoji or something like that. Okay, so it could be a sign too. It might not even be a window. Now, if you do this at the bottom of a building, obviously it could be a door, couldn't it? So I could just do a slanty line and two straight lines to the very bottom of my page, and now I got myself a door. Okay? Then you've got this sky up here. Now, when you're coloring, I want you to look at, this can be the tricky part when we get to coloring. Let's say I'm doing a sunset, and I'm coloring my sky with the sunset color like orange. I gotta be careful when I'm coloring in that I'm coloring that sky all the way to the bottom of the page. Because sky is not just a strip of blue at the top of the page, and then you have your strip of green at the bottom for land. That's not the way sky works. The way sky works is the land and the sky should always touch. And our land is the bottom of the page in this picture, okay? So if I'm coloring in my sky, I got to get between those buildings. That's the tricky part, because you could easily color in one of your buildings not realizing that you're doing that, okay? You want the sky go all the way to the tip top of the paper. You could have clouds in it. You could have a sun in it. You could have maybe an airplane flying through the sky, or one of those things Mr. Mankey really likes called a blimp. But you just want to make sure, even birds would look cool. You just want to make sure that that sky gets in between those buildings. You don't want to leave that space empty, okay? I think a lot of the grades can handle this, especially if you slow it down, take your time looking at what I talked about. And if you keep track of where the top of the building is when you make your windows, you'll be able to make them look somewhat three-dimensional like this is. Have a good time, and I can't wait to see them.